Hello everyone, I'm Babla Jonathan and this is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast over Equinoxe television, coming to you from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. In our top stories, the death of 7 persons after the collapse of a building in Bonamusadi in the Douala 5 subdivision has prompted renewed concerns over construction safety. Authorities say negligence, disregard for building regulations and ignored evacuation warnings contributed to the tragedy, as they promised tougher enforcement to prevent a repeat. And civil society leaders, right defenders have continued denouncing and condemning the continuous violation of human rights in Cameroon, highlighting the case of activist Andre Blaise Isama, who has been maintained in detention at the Douala Central Prison despite his deteriorating health condition. The case heard at the Douala Military Court has once more been adjourned. We have details in this podcast. A deadly building collapse in Bonamusadi in the Douala 5 subdivision has claimed 6 lives and left 6 other persons injured after a two-story structure gave way late Friday night following heavy rains. Municipal authorities say all 12 occupants were inside the building when it collapsed. 3 of the survivors are in critical condition, while 3 others sustained minor injuries. We have details in this report compiled by Equinoxe.
A total of 6 people have died, including 3 children, 1 woman and 2 men, while 3 others are seriously injured and another 3 sustained minor injuries after a 2-story building collapsed late Friday night into Saturday in Bonamusadi, Douala 5 subdivision.
Nous avons été alertés aux environs de minuit 5 après les opérations d'extraction qui nous ont pris pratiquement 2 heures à 2h30 minutes. Nous avons pu extraire un jeune homme âgé de pratiquement 23 ans appelé Olivier et une dame âgée d'une trentaine d'années avec ses 2 enfants malheureusement décédés. Mais la dame, elle était en vie, mais tout simplement blessée grave.
Et ceux qui sont morts, nous les envoyons à la morgue. Et ceux qui ne sont pas morts, ils sont à l'hôpital général.
The mayor of the Douala 5 council says all 12 occupants were inside the structure when it gave way following heavy rains. Search and rescue operations ended Saturday afternoon. The incident occurred a stone's throw from the area popularly known as Chop Eyamo, where firefighters searched through the rubble. The 3 critically injured victims were rushed to the emergency units of the Douala General Hospital.
Le docteur en charge des opérations m'a rassuré qu'il se porte très bien et j'ai eu à dialoguer avec les 3 victimes.
Nous espérons qu'ils vont pouvoir quitter les salles de soins intensifs pour au moins 2 d'entre eux dans la journée, et pour le 3e, c'est après qu'ils se soient stabilisés aux urgences.
The mayor says the building had previously been declared unsafe and identified as being at risk of collapse.
Il se passe que c'était un immeuble abandonné et le propriétaire était mort il y a bien longtemps. Vous savez, dans les us et coutumes de nos concitoyens, lorsqu'ils trouvent une maison abandonnée, ils s'installent.
Tous ceux qui sont dans les pareilles maisons, c'est des gens qui n'ont pas les moyens pour y habiter. Quand ils trouvent les petites maisons comme ça, ils viennent aussi entrer là, ils habitent. On ne paye pas la location.
Although former tenants had reportedly been evacuated, witnesses say the abandoned and dilapidated structure continued to shelter families and street youths.
Je n'étais pas. Hier soir, je suis sortie aller à l'église. Pour une nuit de prière, j'ai dormi à l'église.
She narrowly escaped death because she had gone to church when the building collapsed.
À 5 heures, j'étais ici. Je trouve seulement les voitures passer par là, la police, partout là. Je vois seulement les corps.
Her nephew also survived because he rarely spent the night at home.
Même mon neveu habite avec moi.
The building's owner had repeatedly warned occupants to leave, but the occupants proved stubborn.
Oui, la maire avait dit ça, jusqu'à ce que lui-même, le bailleur, est venu nous dire qu'il n'est pas responsable, lui, qu'il faut que chacun sorte. Que si quelque chose nous arrive ici, ça nous engage.
The tragedy adds to a growing list of building collapses recorded in the city of Douala in recent months, raising renewed concerns over compliance with building safety regulations and the enforcement of evacuation orders.
And municipal authorities in the city of Douala are now taking measures to avoid a repeat of such incidents in the city. They are blaming such happenings on incivility, the poor civic conduct of citizens who refuse to yield to calls of evacuation from authorities and who expose themselves to such dangers. Mala Glory reports.
Last 3 days, these families have been left homeless, forced to sleep in the open air near a building following a tragic incident. This comes after an uncompleted building which had served as their home for over 5 years collapsed over the weekend at St. James in Bonamusa, the neighborhood, killing several family members and injuring others.
On nous a acceptés dans la maison si c'est l'aide que les pères nous ont accepté de vivre là-bas. On ne payait pas.
Many of the victims had previously abandoned their villages in the far north region of Cameroon in search of a better life in Douala. Following the disaster, they now say they are completely stranded with nowhere to go.
On vient se chercher, on n'a rien. On vient se chercher, faire le gardinage, faire le ménage chez les gens.
According to administrative reports, the building had previously been marked for demolition by the Douala 5 Council due to its risky condition.
Ce que nous avons vécu de vendredi à samedi était un immeuble qui était déjà scellé, qui était identifié et scellé parce que nous allons leur demander de partir. Nous jouons notre rôle. Nous allons les informer que là où vous êtes.
The mayor explained that clearing these sites is difficult because many residents claim they have no alternative shelter. Unfortunately, many structurally compromised buildings remain standing across various neighborhoods in Douala.
D'ailleurs, j'ai instruit les services techniques d'identifier le recensement.
The mayor further noticed that measures are being implemented to limit future disaster. However, he emphasized that properties cannot be demolished immediately after being sealed, as the council must follow strict legal procedures.
Un matin comme ça et aller détruire la maison de quelqu'un sans que la procédure n'ait abouti.
On his part, the city mayor blamed residents for such incidents, accusing some of failing to respect the law, acting irresponsibly, and contributing to a growing culture of incivility in Douala. While the victims continue to suffer in the cold, waiting for humanitarian aid, many vulnerable people are forced to live in abandoned structures just to survive. It is common for buildings to collapse in Douala during the rainy season, much like the 2023 incident at Mobi Guinness, which claimed the lives of more than 20 people. Consequently, the authorities are being called upon to step up safety measures to secure the lives of these victims, most of whom are internally displaced persons fleeing conflicts in the far north, northwest and southwest regions.
For several years, residents of a Kundo subdivision in the Indian Division, southwest region of Cameroon have struggled with poor roads that have cut off communities and made travel especially difficult during the rainy season. Now, with government funding secured for the rehabilitation of the Lobe, Bekora, Bafaka, Pondo, Bisoro Road, the road network in that part of the southwest region of the country, hopes are rising for improved connectivity following a meeting with the governor of the southwest region. Benau Kalyebilai traditional rulers say they are counting on the project to begin without delay. They are hoping that the project will begin without delay so that communities can finally enjoy easier access and greater economic opportunities. Innocent as it tells us more.
For many residents of the Kundo subdivision in the southwest region, traveling from one village to another remains a daily struggle. With no tarred roads and no permanent bridges, Motorcycles are the main means of transport, navigating muddy and slippery tracks that become nearly impassable during the rainy season. Where bridges are absent, riders are forced to ride their motorcycles through river crossings, while some residents wade across on foot. Others rely on fragile makeshift wooden bridges that have become veritable death traps. Hope is, however, on the horizon, following the government's allocation of funds for the rehabilitation of the Lobe, Bekora, Bafaka, Kundo, Bisoro road network. Welcoming the initiative, traditional rulers from Balwe and Barombi villages addressed a communique to the governor of the Southwest region, expressing gratitude for the project while requesting that the Civil Engineering Corps of the Cameroon Armed Forces be entrusted with its execution, citing persistent insecurity that could hinder civilian contractors. The chiefs later paid a courtesy visit to the governor in Boya.
We have come to study with him the ways and means of expediting it and obtaining his blessing for the supervision and implication of our populations, those of us along the road. The governor has told us that nowadays chiefs are normally supposed to be implicated in projects that are taking place in their area.
He urged the traditional rulers to closely monitor the execution of the project and support the contractor to ensure its successful completion.
The governor congratulated us for being conscious, for taking part in things that concern us, and it also advised us to be vigilant, and that the government has now authorized local traditional authorities to oversee contracts that come to the area. So that we should be vigilant and we should accompany whoever will be awarded the contract.
Governor Benato Kalyabilai also reaffirmed the government's commitment to improving access and living conditions in the entire Ekondotiti subdivision.
An entire community in Makombe in the Nkam Division littoral region of Cameroon has been deprived of access to basic health care after its only integrated health center was abandoned, overrun by weeds and left without staff despite the deployment of a health care worker. The facility has fallen into disrepair, forcing residents to plead with the Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manauda Malachi, for urgent intervention. Law Manyeru files in greater details.
The Ndonto Integrated Health Center, abandoned in the bush. No patient, no medical doctor, and no life. The entire building is swallowed by trash. The walls are cracking. The staff has completely abandoned the center. Months ago, the Ministry of Public Health officially assigned a female healthcare worker to this post. However, sources confirm she never showed up to assume her duty.
This was hospital na DCMSO na centre de santé intégré for Ndonto. And since we, Monsieur le Ministre,
the hospital you see behind me is the health center of Ndonto. And since the Minister of Public Health transferred an official here, the person has never showed up for service. This is why we are crying for the government's intervention to review our situation.
Say, come help them. How will now the woman never come for take work?
Because of this single absence, an entire population has been left to fend for themselves.
People that are sick for ya, we from go to them sick in no day. People that are suffer, time we sick, the whole them.
As the Ndonto Health Center continues to decay under the weeds, the frustration of the Makombe population grows. They are now crying out to the Minister of Public Health for an urgent intervention.
We are begging the Minister of Public Health that the woman that was sent to work here has not resumed work till date, and we hear that she is working elsewhere.
Government try to see the problem.
I beg Papa Minister, you say put an eye for down people you resign for different places. Now Cameroon don't want.
The contrast between brand new building decaying under the weeds and the population left entirely without medical care highlights a severe breakdown in the system.
The hearing of the case of Cameroonian social activist Andre Blaise Esama, which was scheduled for today at the Douala military court, has been adjourned to August 10, 2026, prolonging the uncertainty surrounding the fate of the man known as Le Combattant, that is the fighter. Fomi Armstrong Santa reports.
In Douala today, like in most parts of Cameroon, supporters of activist Andre Blaise Esama waited in vain. The hearing of the man widely known as Le Combattant was postponed to August the 10th, 2026. Esama, 50, has been held at the Newbert Central Prison since November the 7th, 2025. That's more than 8 months ago. His lawyer said that he was arrested without a warrant, without a summon, and without a lawyer just 1 day after President Paul Biya's swearing in. The arrest followed a social media video in which Esama denounced post-election violence after the October 2025 presidential polls in Cameroon and called for national mourning. He was first placed in a 15 days of administrative detention, but when that expired, rights groups say that no legal extension was issued, violating Cameroonian law. Instead, the civilian was transferred to the Douala military tribunal. He now faces charges including undermining state security and rebellion. Legal experts call it a violation of both the Cameroonian constitution and the international treaties ratified by Cameroon. And now his health is becoming most urgent according to reports. Reports from prison say Esama is suffering from severe diabetes that is threatening his food. Doctors have even mentioned the possibility of amputation. Rights group described the Newbert prison as overcrowded with poor medical care. For 17 years, Blaise Andre Esama has been a vocal campaigner against colonial symbols, most famously targeting the statues of General Leclerc in Douala. He says his goal is to replace colonial monuments with African heroes. With his case now adjourned for another 1 month, human rights groups and political figures in Cameroon are calling for an immediate release. They warn that using military courts against civilians set a dangerous precedent in this post-election period in Cameroon.
Tensions are once again escalating in the Middle East as the brief ceasefire between the United States of America and Iran has collapsed. Renewed hostilities and a fresh wave of airstrikes have heightened fears of a wider regional conflict, raising fresh concerns within the international community. Here's the report compiled by Loma Nyeru.
Collapse of the peace framework followed escalating tension in the critical Strait of Hormuz. According to the regional reports, Iranian forces targeted 3 commercial vessels seeking to enforce strict unilateral navigation protocols and transit fees. The move drew an immediate heavy response from the United States. Speaking from the NATO summit, President Trump did not mince words, according to the Iranian leadership, of violating the agreement and warning that U.S. forces will hit hard against strategic targets. Within hours, American jets launched waves of retaliatory strikes on Iranian port cities and naval assets. Tehran has retaliated, firing ballistic missiles and drones across the Gulf, testing regional air defense systems. The sudden return to open hostility has sent knockwave through global markets, with Brent crude and price jumping over 5% as energy shipping corridor face severe disruption. While the military escalation is severe, the door to negotiation has not completely closed. Back channels talked immediately by Pakistan and Qatar are reportedly ongoing in a desperate bid to rescue the June agreement. However, with the situation on the ground rapidly changing and both sides trading heavy fires, the risk of wide regional conflict is higher than ever.
And that's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point comes up next. Dr. Benjamin Aki, civil society leader, founder and coordinator of English Cameroon for a United Cameroon, joins us right now from Syracuse, United States of America. Doctor, you're welcome to the program. First question to you. Information has been circulating, particularly on social media, indicating that some of you in the diaspora, some Cameroonians in the diaspora, and others who are at home here, but not speaking out loudly, as those of you in the diaspora preparing for the return and swearing in of Issa Chiroma Bakary as president in Cameroon. How feasible is that?
Is that Mr. Issa Chiroma Bakary won the election by a landslide. It is therefore in the interest of Cameroonians to organize themselves and make sure he takes power. And that is what we are precisely seeing now on the ground, that Cameroonians who understand that sovereignty belongs to them are organizing. They're carrying out activities of sensitization, starting with Casserole concert, which will ultimately lead to protest, because the people are sovereign and the street is their office. They are going to use a combination of this to delegitimize the government to the point where it's clear that we are waiting for the president to come, and the president will come and be sworn in anywhere in Cameroon, and the capital will be temporarily relocated to some other city in Cameroon until Yaoundé is made ready for that. I would say that the probability of this taking place this year is very, very high, and even maybe before the anniversary of the election itself.
That Issa Chiroma Bakary won the October 2025 presidential election, but the institution charged with the competence to declare the winner, the Constitutional Council, said President Paul Biya won and he was sworn in. And the question now is, you were saying that Issa Chiroma Bakary will come back to Cameroon, will be sworn in and so on. Are you sure that can happen in a country where there is already a president? And looking at the present political context of Cameroon today,
knows that Elecam is compromised, that the Constitutional Council is compromised, that the people are sovereign, and that Mr. Biya did not win the election, that Mr. Biya, 93, is not running the country. Even the power he stole, he's handed over to people who are fighting among themselves. Different parts of his government are fighting, and therefore there is total stagnation. Everybody knows that Mr. Biya and the people surrounding him have tried to create the post of a vice president in order to transition into a president without an election. So this has never happened before. So Cameroonians know that it is now or never. We either have a country or we do not have a country. It is precisely that combination of Mr. Biya losing the election, being too old to run the country, delegating power in extreme ways, and also trying to impose on the people of Cameroon a president not elected by the people, is precisely that combination that makes us very hopeful that the people will bring the necessary contribution to put an end to this government through protests and creating the conditions for the president-elect to return. And I can guarantee you, Mr. Babila, if Mr. Issa Chiroma enters the territory of Cameroon today, he will be protected by the people of Cameroon. He will swear an oath before the people of Cameroon, and the people of Cameroon in all their unity will stand up to ask for the regime to pack its things and leave, because they did not win the election and they are not legal, they're not legitimate, just by virtue of the fact that Elecam and the Constitutional Council are compromised. So compromised that they are trying to tell us that the people in Northwest and Southwest voted overwhelmingly for the man that has created so much pain and suffering and death in these two regions. So the Cameroonians know exactly what is happening in their country, and they are the sovereign.
They have created pain and suffering in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, but the facts on ground at our level is that a crisis erupted late 2016, and it has been there, conflict between a part of the country, that is the English-speaking parts of the country, and the government over the form of the state, for example, over marginalization and many other problems. Now, about efforts to resolve resolve the conflicts in those two regions that has lasted for over 10 years, and of course the decades-old Anglophone problem, you recently expressed a controversial position in which you are against anything that has to do with an All Anglophone Conference 3, AAC 3, which is being talked about right now. Why are you against it?
This moment, precisely for the reason that Mr. Biya is a master of distraction. He created the Swiss mediation as a distraction to organize a local election, created the national dialogue as a distraction, the Canadian mediation, and now forcefully the people thought that the Pope was coming and there will be liberation, there will be prisoners will be freed, and then there will be a dialogue and all of that. So this is based on distraction, but here is the core of the thing, Mr. Babila. On 12 October 2025, there was a national dialogue on the form of state. On the ballot was federalism and continuation of the unitary state in whatever form they call decentralized or special status. The people rejected the unitary state overwhelmingly, and they voted for the candidate who is willing to bring in a return to federalism, Mr. Issa Chiroma Bakari. Logically, those of us who believe that we can solve the problem in former Southern Cameroons and stay together, we want to enforce that dialogue which took place on the 12th of October, saying that Mr. Chiroma is the president, and that's where my focus is. But on the other hand, our brothers and sisters who believe in independence, they say if the government of Cameroon asks them to talk about bringing lasting peace to Northwest and Southwest, they don't want to see federalists there because federalists are already part of the government. That's their interpretation. So they think that they have a case for independence and they don't want federalists to disturb there. Mr. Babila, those who are talking about AAC are mostly people who are already federalists. I say their energy is better spent fighting for the outcome of the national dialogue on the form of state, which took place on the 12th of October and overwhelmingly chose Mr. Issa Chiroma Bakari, who openly declared that he was going to work towards a federal system. If you are a federalist, work very hard to make sure Mr. Issa Chiroma Bakari is sworn in. If you are an independentist, wait for the time for Mr. Issa Chiroma Bakari, who is the legitimate president of Cameroon, to invite you for that. Anything that is going on there talking about, Anglophones should be talking to themselves, is an unconscious attempt by the people of former Southern Cameroons to help the regime to stay onto power by reducing the attention of the people of former Southern Cameroons to the mobilization that is going on now to create the conditions for the return of the legitimate president from exile and his swearing in and effectively the end of this regime. That's why I maintain the position that we have. And I say since AAC2, it's very clear there are two directions now among the people of former Southern Cameroons. We should not deny that. There are those who say we can fix our union as a federation. There are those who say we have absolutely nothing to do with this regime. Only when we will have the legitimate president to convince those who are for independence to give a try for another federation will we have the conditions for it. That's why I say this is a distraction. My main point is it is a distraction. It also fails to realize that the dialogue, the first opening dialogue which will take place on the question of former Southern Cameroons will be between the legitimate president of Cameroon, who is bringing a federal package to the table, and those who are for independence. Federalists will not be at the table because I don't want to be blamed by the independentists. I want to give as much advice to the president of Cameroon to entice our brothers and sisters to come back to the union.
In the two English-speaking regions of the country, but it remains quite volatile as the crisis persist with some Cameroonians from the northwest and southwest regions of the country who have taken up arms and are fighting to restore the independence of former British Southern Cameroons, while there are increasing calls from state officials and other stakeholders on the pro-independence fighters to drop their guns and return to the normal life trend so that peace and normalcy can return across the two English-speaking regions of the country. Thank you so much, Dr. Ben Aki, for joining us in this conversation today from Syracuse, United States of America. Thank you for your time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. God bless Cameroon. Goodbye.